Welcome to Community Chat for September 9th. As we normally do, a couple quick updates on prior pre-7.0 projects. We released 6.5.18 just the other day. It includes a scrub fix on a long annoying issue that had been showing up in the log when you started a project on iOS. There was 3 Objective-C warnings about UITabBarController. They were harmless, but they were just annoying to see. And those were scrubbed out, so you should no longer see those if you're on a pre-7 project. That fix also went into the official 7.0 release, so just keep that in mind. On the new stuff, their 7.07 CLI patch was just released this morning. That includes more NS-migrate improvements, and additional project structure edge cases were fixed. The changelog is posted there to see any of the specific details there. Along NativeScript 7, again, I'd say for anyone that had issues with NS-migrate or anything just edge case related to CLI, running a project, maybe seeing a unusual log or something that just seemed off, you might try 7.07. and see if that clears up anything that you were dealing with there. The last point I'll mention is related to plugins. So we know the biggest blocker, and it's always the biggest blocker in any tech community in general. You know, I think when there's an advancement and a step forward, generally always plugins are the thing that can kind of make that process a bit slower. And so we've been trying to take some step forwards in a way that could help improve that and now and into the future. And one of these things that next week we're going to publish this blog post on this plugin workspace setup into how it can help those situations. Certainly for those plugin developers out there who want to drop plugins in a setup that they know will work with NativeScript 7 and just all the improvements. This will be something that we're going to make clear in a blog post, but also we're going to watch together in a video. So I'm just going to show a video we'll watch together that previews this plugin workspace, kind of what it's about and what it brings to the table for plugin development in general. And before I show it, I'll just mention that plugins that are out there, I think the biggest one that probably is the major holdup is Firebase. There's general things with the Firebase plugin that work, but I think there's some subtleties in there related to the global handling that still need to be cleaned up. There's some things like this scoping inside of login resolve that I think is not mapping quite right with the symbol. So we're still working with that plugin, and I anticipate that we can have that final by next week. I know that's a big blocker for many out there, the Firebase plugin. So you may have different experiences with it just depending on how you were using it and engaging with it. Some people, and I know I've been able to use it on some projects, but depending on the use case, there may be some symbols that still need cleansing. So just keep that in mind. So again, just on plugins to help this case, let's take a look at this plugin workspace, what it's all about. And the best way to do this is I'm going to play a how-to video that I recorded that walks through its setup, and we'll probably split out different aspects of the workspace in terms of what you can do with it and how all it helps. But this is a good overview look at what it all means.
Let's say we want to add a new plugin. The plugin workspace here. We can run npm run add. We're going to add the actual brightness plugin here. And this is going to configure the whole workspace for a new package. This configures everything from the demo. In every single demo that's in the workspace, we can see it automatically added the package to the Angular demo. It automatically annotated the routing. We can see it also added to the vanilla demo. It annotated the index here, and it added the actual demo view. It also configured the workspace, added the package harness for it, annotated the README to actually include mention of that new package, and it also created a shared structure that you can share demo code between all of the demo flavors. so you're not having to rewrite demo code throughout all of these. Also annotated the in-pin interactive display for that new package and annotated the Workspace JSON for its configuration. So let's actually take a look at porting that existing plugin code into this new package for us. So there's our brightness. Here's the actual brightness code. We just take the Android code, we copy it, we replace all, paste it in. The common file, we're going to take that and also drop in the common, and then we'll take the iOS code and we'll copy it in iOS. Now we're just going to update the paths, make sure this uses common, and we'll make sure this one does the same for common. And we'll also update for the NativeScript 7 paths here. So this is going to be deploy. This is actually coming off plane. This is going to be topmost. And this right here is just going to be the application. And let's just replace these two. And we'll leave that there. We'll put a declare on org right here. And let's see, what else do we got here? This is good. Let's bring over the index as well. So I'll just use the actual index here. The package itself, we'll just make sure we keep the current version and the description right here. And since we are bringing this in scoped, we'll make sure that this is a major version here. So this will be for US 2017. And then let's see what else we got. That is the majority of at least the source TypeScript. Now, the other thing we want to do is make sure that we bring in platforms as well. So we can bring that over here. And the platforms itself includes a reference to this jar, Bitcoin jar. So we're going to bring this file folder over. And the scripts we don't need. And then the source native, we can actually house the native source right inside the package here. So we'll make sure that's intact. And let's go ahead and let's go ahead and do npm start. And if you remember when we added the package, it added it to the interactive display. And you can see it right down here. We can just type it brightness build, and build. And we can see it's actually built and ready to publish now. Puts it in dist packages, and there's brightness all ready to publish and compile US 2017. Let's try to demo the code. So we can actually look right here in the vanilla demo and just see the demo source here. And we can either add that directly to the demo source here, but we don't want to rewrite the code across all these demo targets. So you can actually drop it in tools. There's a reusable structure for the demos here, and it's automatically annotated when you add the thing package. So we can go right here. We can take the guts of this whole model, and we can just basically copy and paste it right inside here. And we can see it uses the brightness symbol from the package. So we'll just bring that in. It's automatically annotated there for us when we add the package. And we'll just bring in a couple of symbols that are being used there. And with this in place, it's actually already propagating this up to our demo. The only thing we want now is just the view. So we can take the guts here. I just grab the actual stuff that was doing the bindings. And we'll find our actual demo for brightness, which was automatically added when we added the package. And we can add the code just right inside here. And with that, if you actually look, this is extending our shared demo shared brightness that was automatically added. We don't even need to use the symbols here because this is shared code across all of our demos. And we should just be able to run this. So we'll just go back to npm start and we'll do the demo, the vanilla one. I'll just run them on iOS. And we can see that it's alongside all the other demos for the packages that we have in the workspace. And here's our demo bound up. And of course, screen brightness only works on a real device, but the same bindings work coming through shared code that can be used against the other demo flavors. Lastly, if you want all this stuff out of your way and you just want to zoom in on the brightness right there, go back to npm start and go to focus, and we'll just focus right on brightness here. Now this does a little bit more than focusing the workspace because it actually additionally focuses all the demos. So we can see this outputs that it's focusing the workspace on the brightness package, and then it also adjusted all the demos. So if we look at the code here, we can actually see the package for Angular stripped all the other packages out and only includes brightness. Same deal with the demo for vanilla, isolated to just brightness. The view demo also isolated. It also isolates code, turns code off when you're only focusing on one. And so now you can run that demo against just brightness. And so now when we run the demo, all we have is actually brightness. And so we can just totally zone in on this one package. Our ID is lightweight. It is easy to move through the code, and our actual demos in not just one flavor, all flavors, and not isolated on brightness, where you can easily move through them and work on one package.
So the key to this that I want to highlight outside of just the tooling is really just the sheer management ease, because the point of doing this is actually to drive everything from a single package and a single TS config. Anytime we bump support, if we're going to go to ES 2025, let's say, in a number of years, to maintain these plugins, you would just bump the single package target here. And if you needed to bump any packages, you could do it here. This package and this TS config is shared throughout everything in the workspace. So the demos are driven from this, and all of the package deployment and builds are driven from this. So compare that to the current strategy of plugins that are out there. And the reason it takes so long for the community to bring plugin compatibility up is that each plugin has its own package. It has its own TS config. It also has that ×3 for each, because you have demo flavors in every single repo. So it really is not super efficient to manage that way. So this is really to kind of streamline those. Now, this is just going to be put out there as an option. You know, if people are comfortable and they're excited about this approach, they can drop them in. The seed that is going to be provided for this will have a run post clone, just like the existing seed has had for a number of years now. If anyone had used the NativeScript plugin seed to develop a plugin off of, there was a post clone that ran, and it prompted you with a number of questions that kind of configured your plugin for your specific named plugin that you were going to develop. This plugin Workspace will be the same, but it's going to configure the scope. So generally, this one right here I'm showing is an example of a workspace that the TSC is managing for NativeScript bound packages. Now, we foresee multiple workspaces being out there. Maybe you yourself are managing something bound to a scope that's out there, or it's one of your own. So you may create something personally for yourself. This has a couple added advantages for you as a plugin developer. One of them is visibility to your name in projects out there, because if you do scope to a username of yourself, you no longer are hidden in package details, but you're actually visible by name and username in a project package. So it does help some visibility for you as an open source developer. But then the other benefits are just along the lines of keeping things organized. So all plugins that you develop could be published on that scope. Now, it's worth stating that you could go non-scope too in this workspace if you just, for whatever reason, did not want to work within a scope-bound space. But we believe scopes are probably going to be a nice way to go for future maintenance. Generally because it's easier to add a group of people to publish access on a scope than it is individual packages, just for the same reason that it's pretty time consuming to individually maintain so many different repos. You know, if you were collaborating with a group of individuals, you would have to go and manually add them against each individual package. But if they're bound on a scope, you can add them to the scope team, and then that team can publish on that scope. So again, generally the seed would be provided as is. It's already got everything built into it for kind of the enhancements for the demo sharing, which is really a problem just generally in maintenance. So again, all of these structures here can be used throughout all flavors, because all it is just JavaScript. So anything you demo, like here for brightness, the Angular flavor actually instantiates this model, and you can bind it directly to Angular view bindings. And that way you can just manage one single demo code set and just bind that up in any of the flavors, just to make sure it works in the different flavors if you want. And most likely in the future too, this seed will provide a vanilla Angular, Vue, and probably React and Svelte as well, just for good measure. Of course, you would never have to demo against those unless you just wanted to as a good practice, but it may provide them just as a nice baseline, just in case you did want to test your plugin against those flavors. But in general, all these flavors will use a single written bound demo code base. The other details this helps solve are things like the transformer configuration. If anyone out there has tried manually updating a plugin, you could get this wrong. It's something that's easy to get wrong. And it's also something that possibly, if we refactor the Webpack plugin a bit more, could change its name, could change its location. So it's something that would be easier to probably provide through some tooling that we can help plugin developers out there with. A lot of the tooling here will probably be published on NPM, and that way we can steadily improve tooling, add extra niceties to it for plugin developers. And then if they're working in a workspace like this, they could just clean their workspace and all of a sudden get all those advancements and those improvements. We can also tightly integrate this with NS-migrate, to where you could migrate workspaces and it could do automatic updates for you, also making more efficient kind of groups and sets of plugins at a bit more steady and with a lot less pain. You know, this strategy is really about removing pain points and time-consuming points that I think have pained plugin developers for a long time. And it's not a NativeScript problem more as it is just a sheer tech problem. All client frameworks out there, Angular, Vue, React, all deal with this issue, you know, with community sets of plugins. But we're going to put this approach out there as a way to potentially ease that, and we're using it in practice now too. So most of the plugins that you see that are on that guide, these sets at least were all updated in this workspace as well, and are being managed in this workspace from this point forward. The things for us to decide usually, and just so everyone out there, if they do see the blog post come out next week on this plugin seed and start playing with it, the biggest question you'll probably ask yourselves is where you draw the line. And it's certainly a question that we ask ourselves as well. And the advice I'll state on this call, and anyone else is welcome to share advice as well on this topic, but my advice is always, it's nice to have a workspace with relatable things. So for instance, one of our own TSC members, OC Fortune, who's developed the 2D and 3D plugins for NativeScript in the WebGL, there's a lot of plugins related to that. 3JS, Canvas, Polyfill, things around Canvas. That's a great use case for a workspace just bound for Canvas work, even though it's on the NativeScript scope. The real advantage is keeping all of that tightly managed for those relatable packages. And of course, it makes sense for personal bound packages. So if Igor or Dave had a Dave Coffin scope, let's say, it makes a lot of sense to keep all of those Dave Coffin scope together. Just makes it easier for you. You can have a script in CI that actually runs and publishes and builds all those packages in one swoop and one commit, rather than having that all separated. And then again, driving back home, the main point is to ease maintenance on updates. Because certainly if a TypeScript version comes out, a new Angular version, you can bump it here all together in this one package. This is your one viewpoint of all the package dependencies for all plugins that you manage in one of these workspaces. You can bump it here, run a build, and deal with any of the change sets there kind of all together in one set. but it doesn't alleviate, or I should say, it doesn't bind you to having to update all at once, because you could still focus on just one. So if there was one that was blocking that you wanted to update, you could focus and just bump and update and develop on that one plugin and publish that one, and then just get back to the others in the workspace and adapting changes as you have time. So it still kind of allows the best of both worlds in that regard. With that, I'll close. I'll stop talking as I do talk too much. And if anyone has questions or comments on that, feel free to hop in.
I'll just say nice work on that, Nathan. Looks awesome.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, this is a different approach, you know, so it's like anything in tech and anything in life. You know, I think if things change or an approach is changed, there's always fear, there's always question, there's always hesitation, and that is certainly normal and certainly natural. You know, I think once we have the blog post out that I think outlines everything that people mostly would have questions about, and you can try it. I think you'll enjoy working in it as we have been here lately. So we're excited to share it with everyone. But with that, I think we'll close the call for today. Again, those who are out there who are blocked upgrading to NativeScript 7 due to Firebase largely, we hope to have that resolved finally in a final version posted by next week. And we have really appreciate everyone who's posting comments on that plugin listing with plugins they're using out there that they need updated that haven't been updated yet, as that gives us a really clear guideline and path as to what is blocking people out there in terms of plugins to update. So we're going to try to help in that regard here over the next week or two for any authors that may be out of touch, perhaps non-responsive, or going through just a busy time. We'll see what we can do to help there. But everyone take care out there, and we will again touch base next week again. Thanks everyone, and stay healthy.
Thanks, Nathan.